Well, let's make it worse. Let's go to SmackDown, where we really got a lot of talk. No, this was the final SmackDown, March 31st, before the big first night of WrestleMania. And as we mentioned on Raw, they couldn't really do a lot more because there wasn't a lot that had been left undone, right? And so it was just kind of maintenance stuff to make sure everybody knows who, everybody's still mad at. And they opened this SmackDown with the Usos coming out and to do an in-ring interview. And they spoke for about 15 seconds. And here comes Sami Zayn's music. And there's so many tunes that they're all interchangeable to me.
Chris Jericho invented that.
I heard that from his own chicken lips. So here comes Sammy and Kevin, and they get in the ring. And I just said, they've pretty much said and done everything. There's not a lot that they haven't done or said. So that's when Kevin and Sammy say, tonight, we're going to make sure that there's nothing left unsaid, which is an excuse for them to talk for 10 minutes. Because here's the thing. I'm not saying this was a bad interview, but they've built this thing up, betrayal and, vengeance and family. And when the two opposing forces or teams just get in the ring together, all of them with microphones, and stand there and talk with no announcer, no referees, no authority figure or no Dana White in between the fighters at the photo op at the weigh-in. How mad can they be? They're standing there fucking talking trash to each other. Just hit somebody, right? It with no structure of a sports-based presentation television program, and the guys normally we just gloss over this because it's so commonplace. They've been doing it for so long because there's really no grudge matches anymore. But this one is kind of a grudge match. They've been firing on all cylinders and they hit their magic formula. So it stood out more that they're just all with microphones just talking to each other because they can't fight yet because that's on the pay-per-view, but we got to have them out here on TV for the ratings. And we didn't put a lot of thought into it. We just let them tell each other off. It was a time filler. There was no new ground broken or anything that whipped you up into a frenzy. As Sammy basically, again, tried to put doubt in the Usos' minds as to whether Roman would be loyal to them or not. And tells them when we win the belts, you guys can go back to being yourselves, right? And then the Usos tell Sammy he'll lose and Kevin's going to turn on him again. And they gave the heels the final word and all four of them stared at each other and that was pretty much it. There's almost a danger, and it wasn't as prevalent in the territory days when it was only an hour TV or the promotions only had one TV show per week, or there wasn't this constant expectation that everybody that's wrestling on the big show will have interaction on every program. But there's a danger sometimes when you put guys in your hot match when you put them together with each other, they're interacting with each other too much before the big match. It kind of takes the edge off because people are, well, fuck, if they were that fucking mad, they'd have done something about it by now. You see what I'm saying?
You think it would have been better to have each team get a win at different points in the show and then follow it with a promo?
Possibly. They had plenty of time to do that because of these meaningless four-ways that prefaced the meaningless four-way tags that they were going to have on WrestleMania. But again, that's kind of a rule. They've got a checklist that they have to have this match or that talent exposed to lead to the pay-per-view. But does anybody give a shit about the 4-team matches? No, male or female. They're just stuck on the show because they want to get those guys a payoff and don't want them bitching that they weren't on WrestleMania. So it might have been better than just have, but then they're thinking, well, the ratings, we want to get the ratings, so they should be in the ring with each other. But then you kind of take the edge off the bigger deal. I don't know. Am I being too critical?
I mean, you're being critical. I mean, too critical, who knows? It's in the eye of the beholder. But I think there's a real point there, because there have been a few times, this one specifically, where as hot as things are, it felt like there was a week where they really didn't have like too much. It was like, okay, let's just general interaction on this week's show. And to what I said earlier, if you had Owens and Zayn get a nice conclusive victory over some team and then follow it up with a fired up promo in front of that house in the town that the show's going to be in, that was a hot crowd, and then have the Usos do the same thing, does that build up interest in the pay-per-view more than just a debate with no touching? I don't know.
Yes. And no resolution. But anyway, speaking of resolutions and none of same, four-way, there's going to be a four-way tag, so they have a four-way single. Ricochet, Montez Ford, Shush Boy, and a Viking. And Ricochet won. And that makes you want to see the four-way tag less, because it's just more of these people doing moves to each other back and forth. They had the Andre Battle Royal. And the Andre the Giant package was one of my favorite parts of the show. The only two people that got an entrance were Bobby Lashley and Braun Strowman. And everybody else was just...
Braun Strowman, for those unaware.
Yeah, and everybody else was just, out there in the ring. And then during the break in between Lashley and Strongman, they have a shot of the Great Muta's dressing room with the Great Muta's name on the door. And a production guy opens the door and comes out wiping green mist off his face.
Oh, that Muta.
And they say, the Great Muta's here tonight for the Hall of Fame.
What wacky Muta. He's always up to things like that.
That's the kind of shit, if it'd been Baba, he would have cut the fucking working agreement off again. So anyway, that wacky misting Muta, and then we never saw Muta on this show.
That wacky misting Muta.
Wacky misting Muta. A wacky waving arm inflatable misting Muta is available at Target. So they ring the bell for the Battle Royal, and there's easily 20-plus guys in the thing, and Michael Cole immediately says Flop Dollar's going to win because he can't get over the top rope. So they're still persecuting that, and Baron Corbin gets dumped in 5 seconds, and I'm fast-forwarding to the Final Four because we got bigger fish to fry. And the Final Four were Lashley, LA Knight, Bronson Reed, and Braun Strowman. And the people were for LA Knight. Did you hear that?
Not a surprise.
Every time that it looked like he might actually do something, they were with it. And when somebody did something to him, they were against that person. And finally, Bronson Reed dumped him and got the most heat of the match. And people were genuinely not happy about it.
If he shows up tonight for night 2 of WrestleMania, he'll get a monster pop.
And that's probably why they'll keep him hidden in the back. Braun Strowman is rotten. I see that in a 15-second period, he was waving Lashley in for the squash in the corner, but not selling on his face at all, going through the motions physically, but he's looking around, and he's... the quick camera cuts obscured some of it, but then they had a spot where Lashley was going to run and Strongman was going to scoop him up for a over-the-shoulder slam, and they had to do it twice, and there was much conversation about this. And finally, Bronson Reed eliminated good old Braun Strowman and then missed a splash off the top, and Lashley hit the spear and eliminated Bronson Reed. And it was rough, but it's better for Bobby Lashley than working with Bray Wyatt. And apparently that was whatever Captain Duty's problem is. Lashley had no match, so they gave him this big win on network television because he was off WrestleMania at the last minute. So that was kind of that.
I think he'll be there for night 2 also, and I've said before on the show what I think could be what they do with him, but the story's LA Knight once again. Everything they had done with this guy, now we're talking months where people should have given up on caring about him. But they like his catchphrase. He does a good promo. His matches are good. He beat Rey Mysterio last week. They got it. Like, time's running out. You have to do something with him if you're going to do something with him, and you should right now.
Yeah, well, and sympathy about bad booking only lasts so long because right now the people are like, well, fuck them. We're going to still cheer for LA. But then if just over and over they don't see anything, they will tire of that. Anyway, they did a great Cody package. Again, great stuff. The history package from old footage of, his early days in the company and in the business until now, and the rehab from the injury and the whole 9 yards. And that's the way you make somebody look like a star. And they do this better than anybody. And then here's another Shayna versus Raquel versus Natalya versus Cruella. And Shayna had Ronda, and Raquel had Liv in the corner, and Natalya had Hoosie, and Cruella had Whatsy. And there's a 4-team girls match at WrestleMania. They're doing the same thing as the guys on the same show. Who gives a shit?
Winning team gets Vince McMahon.
And boy, in that case, it'd be like a Tupelo loser leave town match where everybody's trying to fucking lose. And then Pablo Escobar in the back with Rey Mysterio recited some dramatic verbiage about the lucha suits being behind him and the drama with his son. This was like a dramatic play reading audition kind of thing. Did you get that vibe?
A little bit. And again, I've said, Escobar's all right, but the way they've kind of shoehorned him into the Rey Mysterio thing kind of is the only thing in the Rey Dominic feud program that feels a bit forced. Zelina Vega, I feel bad for her. She had nothing to do. She just stands there and nods. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Well, and now they're kind of pulling Rhea out of the Judgment Day, hopefully, with the latest developments. So Zelina didn't really have anything to do there either. But nevertheless, the awkward partners angle takes place. Sheamus and Drew, the reluctant partners, are forced into a tag team match against Gunther's Imperium Stooges, Kaiser Wilhelm and Marcel Marceau, ahead of the 3-way with Gunther at WrestleMania. And I've mentioned I'd rather seen Gunther and Drew probably just because we've seen Gunther and Sheamus here recently, but Gunther in a single match with anybody. But we get another 3-way. And now this is the obligatory, we're going to treat Gunther's Stooges like Stooges and make it a self-fulfilling thing where the only thing that either of the baby faces really sold here was each other and their, animosity toward each other and lots of tagging themselves in on each other. But they only lost the advantage when they were arguing with each other. And then they beat the heels flat in the middle. So it's the same thing. Again, with the Usos, there's still an element of they're treated in Roman's programs as two guys for the single challenger to beat up. So how do I take them as a top team? And here, Gunther's tag team is like two flunkies. So how do I take them seriously as any more than cannon fodder? That's my issue with the way they treat the tag teams in these factions.
Word came out just this past week that Drew McIntyre's contract is coming up soon, and reportedly, he and WWE are far apart on a new contract. What are your thoughts? I mean, this is a guy that was a champion a couple of years ago. Now he's doing his stuff with Sheamus. I personally am bored with it, but what do you think?
Well, I mean, he's a great-looking guy, and he's a good talent, and he's worked very hard, and we've heard reports here lately that he's worked through injuries and or illness to be there, to be, make bookings, be the guy, locker room, if not leader, then set an example. I'm sure he's been doing that also to show them that he's valuable, but without knowing, yes, I'd sign him, but without knowing how much they're paying him or how much he's wanting, that may be the sticking point. Is he a guy that's worth several $1 million or whatever? Probably not. They fired Brown making a couple million. They fired Bray Wyatt and then got buyer's remorse apparently again. We heard they offered Owens somewhere between $2.5 and $3 million. Right now, Owens is more over than Drew, even though stand the two of them next to each other and it's a before and after ad for fucking taking care of yourself physically. So without knowing the amount, I can't say which side's being unrealistic here. But nevertheless, we come now to the main event of SmackDown, which is the promo. Cody makes his entrance. And what do you want to talk about? And he cut another... Go ahead.
The first time he did it, it was kind of like, okay, this is a funny little line considering everything going on. Then the second time he did it, it referenced the first time he did it. Now he's in WWE, he's doing it for every promo. I'm getting a little sick of, so what do you guys want to talk about?
Well, you know, they're not exactly...
No one's reacting to it either.
In the air and bringing the house down for it like, you know, when The Rock says, finally... So yeah, but that's his thing. But he told him what he wanted to talk about. He did a good promo again, promoted the big match, rah-rahed the fans, did some Tupac lyrics. He stopped before he said he would go into the stuff that was too adult for Fox. I've never heard a Tupac song, so I can't comment on that. I loved the line where he said Roman Reigns was an 11-year multi-million-dollar investment that didn't pay off till year 8. That was pretty fucking stiff. And he, you know, was introducing himself as the next champion. And at WrestleMania, I'm going to finish. And he started to say my story. And then Roman's music hits. And Roman does his 3-minute entrance. And then they had the face-off. And Roman started to do his... you know, deal, hey, LA, acknowledge me. But no, he's, wait, I don't care about them. It's your turn. Cody Rhodes, acknowledge me. And then he dropped the microphone. They went face to face. Roman lifted the belt up and they went off the air. So
what do you think happened after that? Did they get out of the ring? Did they fight? Did they fight all the way until WrestleMania? What happened?
I don't think they did. I think they got out of the ring because, again, it was... we've seen them go face to face, and it was another ratings ploy, if you'd like to use that term for it, but it was just another way to get them in the middle of the ring, but nothing happened. Cody did another excellent promo. It didn't need Roman for that. Roman's part was to stand there face to face and hold the belt in the air. And then I guess once they went off the air, there was some type of awkward why yada, and then they left. But this was pretty much just a refresher show the night before. Did I miss anything in that last segment?
No, I don't think so. Is that what you think this should be, the night before night 1 of WrestleMania?
Well, yes, it should be. I mean, you can't shoot a major angle that you expect to get, you know, any play or have any impact 24 hours before the fucking show, because then by the time that people would have time to hear about it, sink in, see it, talk about it, refresh it, relive it, it's gone. But, you know, at the same time, they do it so much. Just let's get the participants in the ring together with each other in some fashion, even if absolutely nothing happens. And I'm not saying something should happen every time. They do too many angles. That's why many of them don't register. But I'm saying you can't have your cake and eat it too, in terms of if you have the participants in a big match that you're trying to sell, a big premium live event, whatever, if you have the participants together on TV every week, being able to advertise that may help the ratings, but you can't have them fight constantly or fight every time, or it takes the edge off the match. And as we mentioned earlier, with the Usos and Owens and Sammy, if you have them in the ring and they don't fight, it sometimes kind of takes the edge off the thing. They all should be represented on the show, but you can't have them interact just every week unless you're doing something to further things along. Because then people say, well, They say they're going to be face to face, but the last time the one guy held the belt up and the other guy stood and glared at him and nothing happened. So then you're kind of losing your credibility when you advertise that. You tease them, and if they know that nothing happens more often than not. So it's a balancing act.
Should someone yell at the end of the show, like one of the commentators, like, we have to go off the air?
Yes.
There's none of that. It's just silence.
Yes. Instead of just, well, that's it. You know, if that's where JR was so good in the Attitude Era, if Roman is standing there holding the belt up and Cody's staring him in the face, instead of it just going to fucking black or a football commercial or whatever, JR would do the fill and he would say, the most dominant champion of modern times faces his biggest challenge ever in less than 24 hours. Can Cody Rhodes, the American Nightmare, finish his story? Then you go to the fucking break. But Kevin Dunn or somebody, or it's Vince or the two of them together, or they've trained all of the technical crew and the announcers, this is what we do. This is how we do it. Uh-huh.
This just breaking. Vince now wants to be referred to as Pierre.
And he is so lucky. He is so lucky. Lucky Pierre. But you know what, Brian? Here's the thing. A lot of times, when you're Vince McMahon, you got so many things going on. You got so many things you're in charge of, a busy man. Sometimes you need to just be aware of what's going on around you and read the room better. It's always good when you can read the room better, when you're aware of your surroundings. Let me give you an example, young Mr. Last. I got an email, I'll have you know, an email from a fellow whose name I will not mention because we're going to talk about a criminal case here. And I don't want to, even though he was the victim, I don't want to have him drug through any type of thing out in public. But he writes, hello, Jim and Brian. I'm a huge fan of the show. I wanted to share with you a recent event that happened in my life I think you may find interesting. I worked nights at a gas station. And one night, while listening to your program, two individuals walked into the store and held me at gunpoint. They demanded all the money from the registers. They demanded my cell phone and even my earbuds. Now, at the time, I'd been using cheap $20 earbuds I bought at a flea market, so it was no big loss. But I wished that I'd been more alert to the situation. I remember thinking afterwards, after I was the victim of an armed robbery at gunpoint, man, where am I going to get some replacement earbuds? And if only there were earbuds with an awareness mode, so I'd know what was going on around me, something I could wear every day. And then I remembered your spot about Raycon wireless earbuds, and the first thing I did after calling the police and filing a police report was to go to Raycon.com and buy a pair of earbuds with your promo code, so the next time someone robs the store and holds me at gunpoint, I'll at least be aware of it. Thank you again, Jim and Brian.
I'm glad they didn't take his laptop.
Well, he didn't have it. He was standing up working. He wasn't sitting around with stuff on his lap.
Doesn't have to be on your lap.
Well, it's a laptop.
I think most people actually probably don't use it just on their lap. They put it on a desk or a table. Take it anywhere.
Well, if you don't know how to use your equipment, that's not my fault. I can't be everywhere at once. But I'm telling you right now, folks, if you don't want to be robbed at gunpoint, the way society is these days, now I'm telling you, the way people are these days, the way society in general is these days, the only way that you can protect yourself from being robbed at gunpoint is to buy yourself a pair of Raycon everyday wireless earbuds.
They cannot protect anyone from being robbed at gunpoint. Let's be very clear about that.
Technically, they can because, and I'll tell you why.
Technically, they can't. No, you tell me. Let me hear this.
Well, yes, technically, because here's the thing now. Now, see, little Mooch here that just wrote in, he had these cheap earbuds in his ears from the flea market, and he was listening to the music turned up loud, and these people snuck up behind him and got the drop on him. And before he was even aware of what was going on, they had him dead to rights. They had him at gunpoint. He was dicked by the dangle dong of destiny right there in front of God and everybody. he was caught. But
making a lot of assumptions there, but okay, go ahead.
Well, why would you just stand there and know somebody was coming up on you with a gun and stand there and allow him to do it? He had no knowledge because of the cheap earbuds.
No, well, you don't know that. Again, you don't know that. If he's
I'm just going by his personal testimony.
If he's back there watching porn, not paying attention to who's in the store, and they come up behind him.
You can't watch porn on $20 earbuds. You can only listen to it. And what good is that? That's like smelling a bakery without going in and eating the cake.
Just watch women's tennis.
I thought you were going to say women's titties. But nevertheless, so we're back to the armed robbery. Now, here's the thing. The Raycon wireless earbuds can stop you from being a victim of an armed robbery because they have an awareness mode.
But you can't you can't say they're going to protect you from being in an armed robbery. They
will give you early warning. You'll know about it ahead of time. You got time to get your rabbit ass out of there because you'll be aware of your surroundings courtesy of the awareness mode.
But again, I mean, in the best case scenario, yes, this is exactly what would happen. But again, Raycon earbuds will not protect you from armed robbery.
They can help make you not involved in one.
They can help you. What? No, I don't.
They can help make you not involved in one. If you know that the armed robber is approaching you, you will leave. You will leave the area, the vicinity. You will not be robbed. Therefore, an awareness mode on your everyday wireless earbuds from Raycon will prevent you from being the victim of an armed robbery because you got time to skedaddle. You got time to get the heck out of there. You got time to just take off.
What the fuck was that?
Yeah, see? I didn't hit the button all the way. See, there we go. So anyway, here's another thing.
Yeah.
With the noise isolation, let's say that you're screaming, help, help, police. Help, police. Well, if there's a bunch of, I don't know, traffic noise around, or there's a brass band, a parade down the street, they may not be able to hear you. Well, with the noise isolation on your Raycon wireless earbuds, you can just isolate the noise of you screaming at the top of your lungs for help.
What?
And get rid of all the rest of that noise. You can isolate that noise.
First of all, this is the worst example you could ever give. But second of all, that's not how noise isolation works. You don't isolate individual noises.
You don't isolate noise when you're using noise isolation?
Well, not individual noises that you can then, I don't know, repurpose
on a
loudspeaker? What is your plan here?
If you've got multiple noises, then you're not isolating them because you can't be isolated in a group. Here's something else. Crystal clear call quality. So when you call 911, somebody shot me in my taint, they'll be able to hear you a mile away, and you'll be able to hear them when they say, well, it's up to you to fucking get yourself out of this mess because we've got other calls to answer first. And since you're in a sticky situation there, these everyday earbuds are water and sweat resistant. They're sweat resistant because you're going to be sweating your balls off if you're staring down the barrel of a 44. You're going to turn and scream at Linda Lou, and the water's going to hit the floor, and they're water resistant too. And when you jump off the bridge into the river to swim away from the people that are robbing you at gunpoint, these Raycon everyday wireless earbuds will sound as good when they come out of the fucking drink as they did when you dove in. So you got all those things going for you. So right now, if you want to stay free of this crime wave that we're experiencing in the United States today,
especially on the West Coast,
go to BuyRaycon, BuyRaycon, BuyRaycon.com/JCE. Today, you're going to get 15% off your Raycon order. Everything. Order whatever they've got. Order shit they don't have. Send them money. They'll give you 15% off. BuyRaycon.com/JCE. You got to remember the /JCE to get the 15% off. BuyRaycon.com/JCE. Do not be the victim of crime in the streets. Protect yourself. Be aware with Raycon everyday wireless earbuds, even if noises are still in groups.
That's right. Raycon!